believe that we are live now here. We want to welcome everyone to Facebook Live with the RIA Industry Briefing. I'm Mark Springer, RIA President. So pleased to be coming to you today with RIA President-elect and AGA Chairwoman Katie Smith. Katie, welcome today.
Thank you.
All right, we also have, of course, the man who needs no introduction, Mr. Ed Cross, RIA Restoration Advocate. Ed, thank you for joining us today. We've got some exciting announcements, a lot of AGA work that's been in progress for quite some time. We're very much looking forward to sharing with our audience today. Welcome, thank you for being here, and thank you for all you do for restorers around the world.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be here.
All right, that's excellent. So today we have the very first presented by RIA Industry Briefing. We are being brought to you today by Shield Hub. Shield Hub is an innovative company that has just announced the industry standard background check. So very important. I know a lot of our folks who do a lot of TPA work have challenges with an industry standard background check for the insurance and restoration industry. This enables restoration businesses to digitally transform their third-party compliance and risk management capabilities. The new standard removes ambiguity, interpretation, bias, and eliminates the need for multiple checks from professionals working in the industry. There are a number of key benefits to this platform, and we would encourage you to check out shieldhub.com, or you can email michael.o'connor@shieldhub.com. Thank you, Shield Hub, for presenting today's industry briefing. A couple other announcements we want to jump into before we turn our attention to some major AGA investments. First of all, many of you may have noticed that RIA has a new website, much overdue. Of course, I've said this before to our listeners, I was always very embarrassed to send people to our website that was in so great a need for updating. And we are so pleased that our website today brings the many resources and assets that our members have to them in a much better user interface. So please check out www.restorationindustry.org. We thank our CEO, Christy Cohen, for the excellent work that she had in developing the new website. When you go to the website, if you click on the events tab, you can go find information about the International Restoration Convention and Industry Expo. So unfortunate here in 2020 that we have to do this event virtually in our 74 years of Restoration Industry Association annual conferences. I can tell you unequivocally that we have never had a virtual convention before, but this year we have our very first virtual convention. It will very much mirror the conventions that we typically have. We will have the same awards. We will have our town hall. We will have, if you go and click on program, you can see that we will have multiple tracks available. The big difference this year is that after the convention, if you register for the convention, you will have the ability to use the sessions on demand. So that's always one of the challenges with a live convention. You have to pick and choose which track am I going to attend. In the new virtual convention, you will be able to check out those sessions that you weren't able to view live. And as an added benefit, you will be able to use this content with your staff. So a lot of times there's those great takeaways. You see that excellent presentation on COVID disinfection, or maybe it's on a specialty drying application that you want to share with your staff. In the virtual environment, you will be able to bring that back to your staff and utilize that training and help your staff grow. So October 6th and 7th, please go there, sign up. Our town hall is going to have more announcements. We are going to be announcing several things that are going to have a major impact on the restoration industry. You're going to get a preview of some of those today. You do not want to miss the virtual conference. And here's the other thing. You save all the travel and hotel costs. So lots of good reasons to be there. Another exciting development here, we just have the newly reworked WLS. It was just hosted actually at our facility in Missoula, Montana. We had a total of 25,000 people, or 25,000, 25 people in that course, getting their advanced WLS designation. Of course, this is in tandem with IICRC. Our collaboration on this has been so beneficial to the industry. That certainly is the largest WLS class we've had in a while. And we want to very profoundly thank Josh Miller, Ken Larson, David Sweet, excellent instructors. And of course, in these COVID times that we're in, it's a challenge, and we want to thank those guys for their excellent instruction. It's great to have folks together for an excellent class, and congratulations to the folks who went through that course. One other announcement is the 4th edition, in case you missed it, July 30th, the 4th edition of the Report for Professional Cleaning and Restoration Contractors, collaboration between IICRC and RIA, was in its 4th edition. Thank Brandon Burton, Mark Drozdov, Norris Gearhart, Michael Pinto for all of the work that they have put into this. We also have been joined by the American Industrial Hygiene Association, who are additionally collaborating with us on this incredible resource for restoration contractors. You can get this resource either on restorationindustry.org or on iicrc.org. We do have the 5th edition that is forthcoming, and you should be on the lookout for the 5th edition. This document continues to just have incredible value, and again, a great benefit of the IICRC and RIA partnership that began last spring. And so we have just some major kind of high level announcements there for you. Now, you will want to stay on for the end of this briefing. We have a special promotion that we want to make available to RIA new members. So please tune in at the end for a special promotion that we have here on this industry briefing near the end of the briefing. So with that all being said, let's jump into the and some of the announcements that we have, some of the work product. Katie, I know this summer it's been probably one of the craziest summers that any of us have been through.
Yes.
But you and the AGA committee have been working hard on some major developments. I know you're going to speak to one of them right now here today during the briefing. Ed's going to speak to the other one. Give us kind of a recap on some of the big things that have been happening in AGA.
My pleasure. Yeah, the AGA team has been so busy this year. We haven't let COVID slow us down at all. And as you said, we collaborated with the IICRC to create the COVID guidance documents, but we also produced letters of support for essential businesses. We've had meaningful and productive conversation with Xactware executives, and RIA members have access to those videos on our website. And soon we'll be publishing our first pricing position statement. We published our first TPA position paper for scope revision request. And coming up in just under 3 weeks, I am so excited about this one. Our TPA scorecard will be ready for RIA members. Our TPA subcommittee has been just amazing with this project. They've worked hard on it. They should be proud of it. I know I am. We had almost 1,000 responses to our survey. So if you took it or if you helped us promote this survey, thank you. We are just so grateful. Our editorial team is now working on publishing the scorecard, and this is going to be more than just letter grades. There's going to be detail and transparency that show you exactly how we arrived at the results. And we'll give some of the leading TPAs an opportunity to review the scorecard as soon as it's ready. Then our advocate will start working on ways to build bridges and improve the contractor-TPA relationship. The TPA scorecard, along with our third-party consultant position papers, will be unveiled during our virtual convention that Mark just mentioned. And if you haven't registered for that, I mean, what are you waiting for? I mean, if you can't even attend live, you can do it later. And there's going to be so many announcements coming at this, and you don't want to miss the scorecard especially. Also, finally, I want to thank our AGA investors. Without you, this work would not be possible. We especially want to thank Restoration Affiliates for their generous investment of $25,000. We are just so grateful for your organization and your support. And if you haven't invested in the AGA movement, we've made it so much easier to do on our beautiful new website, restorationindustry.org. The suggested amount is just $100 per million in revenue. And if you invested last year, we encourage you to make it an annual investment. And maybe you haven't spent much money on traveling this year because events have been canceled. And if that's the case, consider taking the money you would have spent on travel and invest some of that in AGA. We are just getting started now, and we need your support. Thanks, Mark.
Excellent, Katie. So these are, as you mentioned, we have some really significant announcements that are going to be coming, and those will be, of course, the official work product will be unveiled. They're in the virtual convention, but the scorecard that you talked about, 1,000 responses, I think that really exceeded my expectations in many ways. What about you? How many did you think we'd have, and what were kind of, as you looked at that, what were some of your initial thoughts?
I was not surprised by any of the results. I was not either surprised because I know Ed has a robust mailing list, and
Right.
Ed and Michelle Blevins helped us promote this substantially. And so
Yeah.
I was expecting about 400 or 500 responses, and just the way everybody banded together to get the word out was just awesome. So thank you.
Yeah. So this scorecard, of course, one of the things that really, the couple things I think that were really the genesis of this is we have so many people that inquire with RIA to say, hey, I've been looking at these different TPAs. Which one should I be on?
Right.
And that was some of kind of the concept that we had behind this is we haven't had a good answer. So how do you think this might help inform someone as they look at the results of the survey and the scorecard? How might that inform a member's decision in this process?
Yeah, there's a variety of questions, and you can search based on what's most important to you and your business, and see the scores and decide if that's a company that you wish to align with and a network that you wish to apply for. And just gives you information that is not easily found anywhere else. And so this is, as far as we know, the only resource that compares TPAs as far as the service and the value delivered to contractors. And we're just really proud of it.
No, I think how many different TPAs did we have actually in the score? I don't know if you know that off the top of your head, but it was more than half a dozen.
Yeah, I was going to say it's about 11. And obviously we have about 5 that are leading TPAs that a lot of contractors are participating in. And so we have a lot of data on those. And then we have some write-ins as well, but in total about 11.
Okay, and again, you mentioned this as really a first step. So we've got all this data that's been aggregated from this major survey, which took quite a while to aggregate all that data. And I know Debbie Bogar is a data master. She is so wonderful in how she has helped with getting all this data organized. But really, this is the first. I mean, it's not that the scorecard isn't the end in of itself. You mentioned that Ed, our restoration advocate, will be now working to build some bridges with these different groups to advocate for contractors' benefit or contractors' interests, I guess that would be a better way to say that. How do you envision that happening initially? I mean, there's a lot of ways I think this might happen, but what are some of the first steps you might envision there?
Yeah, the interesting thing about the work that the AGA does is that anytime, whether we're dealing with Exactware or, as you'll hear later, just different organizations, stakeholders in the process, we feel that it's a nice thing to do, or the right thing to do, to let them see what we're working on and give them a chance to offer feedback. And so we're going to be doing that with the TPAs. We don't want to blindside anyone. So we want to have meaningful conversations. Same thing with Exactware. So I think that we make it clear in our intro that we need each other. Contractors need TPAs and TPAs need contractors. And so we want to make sure that we build bridges here. It's not adversarial. The whole goal is to improve the service and ultimately the service that our clients receive. And we do promise to do this report annually. And so it's not like something that we're just going to do one time and then walk away from. This is how we measure where we are. And we can't see where we're going unless we know where we're starting.
Excellent. I just pulled up here for folks who are watching us live, the new RIA website. You can see that our mission to educate, advocate, and elevate the industry is right there front and center. Certainly this scorecard effort fits right in with that mission in educating our members about what the pros and cons are with these individual TPAs, advocating for their interests in that, and then elevating this relationship to really ensure the sustainability of our members' businesses over time. So, Katie, thanks for your team and all the work that they're doing. One thing I just wanted to show folks on the new website here, if you go to the advocacy tab, if you drop down here to the member-only AGA resources, we're going to be talking about what some of those resources are. The TPA scorecard will absolutely be a member-only resource. We will not be publishing that widely in the industry. That will be a benefit only to our members, along with a lot of the other pieces that we are developing to help you run your business, run it in a way that is sustainable. This is where you can find these tools, and encourage you to go there. I mentioned earlier our annual convention. That is where the TPA scorecard will be released. That virtual event is available right here from this drop-down tab. And you can go here again to restorationindustry.org to get that information. Now, over to Mr. Cross. Katie, thank you for all of that. Back over to Mr. Cross. Mr. Cross, one of the things that has also...
You can call me Ed.
You will always be Mr. Cross to me. Ed, you have a lot of work that has happened over the past summer with a very dedicated group of volunteers, very qualified group of volunteers for really something that is at the core of the AGA movement, and that is in these position papers. Tell us about what we can look forward to with position papers here at the virtual convention and its major announcements that we have there.
Yeah, sure. Well, first off, while we're on the subject of hardworking volunteers, I want to extend my thanks and appreciation and my respect to you, Mark, and to you, Katie, for all the hard work that you guys have done. Absolutely tireless with RIA and AGA, and the industry and I owe you a debt of gratitude, and you've really done a wonderful job. Before we get on to the wonderful news and the celebration, I want to recognize the fact that there is a lot of suffering going on right now, and extend my thoughts and prayers to everybody out there who's struggling from COVID-19, from these devastating storms, from these unbelievable wildfires. I mean, this year has been absolutely one for the books. Fortunately, we have a strong restoration industry who is available and ready to address all three of those, actually. But the way they can do that the most effectively is to join the RIA and take advantage of these unbelievable resources and the assets that are available to members only. And one of the biggest ones, most significant ones, in my opinion, is the upcoming third-party consultant position statements that we're putting out. And so let me talk first, just to make sure everybody's clear what we mean when we're talking about third-party consultants. We're talking about companies or individuals that come in, typically engaged by an insurance company to make recommendations about price or scope or that sort of thing. A third-party consultant is called a third party because that individual or entity is not a party to the restoration contract. They're not a party to the insurance contract. They are working on behalf of a primary party. Like I said, typically it's the insured. So third-party consultants typically include your independent adjusters, your third-party bill reviewers, your construction experts who come in, and their role is to make recommendations to the insurance company, not to control the jobs. So we are putting out a set of very, very robust 8 different position statements that absolutely more than pay for the cost of an RIA membership. You get a membership, and on day one, instantly it's paid for itself with the benefit of this material, as well as the other incredible assets we've got there with video, with Xactimate, that's, I don't think, available anywhere else, and Face the Advocate, which I'm going to be talking about in a minute. So I'd like to talk for a minute just to explain to people how these position statements go about being created, and where are they from? How is it born, and what's the evolution of it? And those of you who've been following along with AGA, you know that our first step was to elicit member input. Tell us the challenges that you are facing. And we got reports back, not from dozens, not from hundreds, but probably 1,000 or more restoration contractors who told us about their challenges, particularly with respect to third-party consultants. This is a major source of aggravation for restoration contractors. So we set up a task force to deal with these issues, all right, and to come up with some positions that would help restorers to combat the heavy-handed third-party consultant. Not all the third-party consultants, but those who are overstepping. And we know that this is a widespread problem because I've received so many reports and so many complaints. And in my personal opinion, looking at these fact scenarios, these third-party consultants are stepping into dangerous territory. They're interfering with the restoration contract. They are sometimes adjusting claims without a license. Adjusting without a license is a crime, ladies and gentlemen. So we've convened a task force. It's an incredible team of industry veterans, and they have special expertise in dealing with third-party consultants. We were very fortunate to have Barry Swidler, former ASCR president. He's a lawyer, he's a contractor. He's not a practicing lawyer, but he owns a very successful restoration company in New York City. He agreed to chair the task force. He's efficient, he's sharp, he's decisive, and he's very, very persuasive. So his team gathered facts and evidence and formulated arguments and positions. And then the AGA collaborated with that team, and a very intensive review process got underway. And we've done our very best to consider the issues from all the different angles. And we've even elicited input from several third-party consultants themselves. So the next step in the process is that the AGA works with the task force to finalize a version, to reach consensus there. And then that goes up to the RIA Board of Directors for final review, comment, and ultimately approval. So what you see here is we follow a multi-tier process for review and creation of this material. It's not just for the TPC position statements, it's for all of the position statements. Why? It's important that restorers can take comfort in knowing that the statements that they're relying on have been researched, they're supported by logic, they're supported by evidence and law, they've been fine-tuned. Not only that, they represent a consensus of a big team. We want you to be able to hang your hat on these. So what's the function? What's it really about? Well, these papers give you strong arguments that are crafted by some of the best in the business that you can use when you need to push back against a TPC. Now, in a lot of cases, you won't need to push back against TPCs, and you won't have an instance to use these. And you probably, in most cases, don't want to start off with these right at the beginning. And I want to make this clear. Collaboration is important. All right, you want to get claims resolved amicably for the benefit of the boss. Who's the boss? The boss is not State Farm or Allstate. The boss is not Sedgwick or JS Held. You're not working for them. The boss is the policyholder. The policyholder is entitled to the reasonable and customary cost of the work, or some policies word it, the reasonable cost of the work. Well, RIA members have access to videos straight from the horse's mouth, proving that the usual and customary cost of the work is not necessarily the lowest price in town. The usual and customary cost is basically the fair market value. That's a price that willing buyers in a market pay willing sellers when each have access to the relevant facts and neither is under a compulsion to buy or sell. Now, if the carrier doesn't pay that amount, it's shortchanging the policyholder, who then has contractual rights against the insurance company. Those can be assigned to the restorer. And in some cases, like in California, where I am, the restorer can recover attorney's fees in prosecuting those claims. But we want to try to avoid escalation. But unfortunately, in the current business environment, some TPCs are interfering with restorers' contracts, and they're interfering with the insurance contract. So if you patiently and cordially try to amicably resolve an issue with the TPC, but you feel like the TPC is either taking over your job or being too heavy-handed, and you've hit an impasse, and you want to know where to draw the line in the sand, you'll have solid position statements with strong arguments to support your position, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. RIA has done that for you. Now, these upcoming TPC position papers address a lot of hot button issues. Number one, they address the role of the third-party consultant. They talk about the difference between making recommendations to an insurance company, which is what they're supposed to do, and taking over a job, which they're not supposed to do. They talk about what third-party consultants should do to prove their qualifications. They talk about when a restorer has to produce evidence of the cost to perform a job. We take the unyielding position that third-party consultants are not entitled to proof of ownership of equipment when they're fishing for excuses to try to cut an invoice. We steadfastly reject the view that rented equipment is inferior to owned equipment. We explain in these papers why the TPCs are not entitled to dictate the manner or the scope of the repairs. We give you great responses for TPCs who try to modify your rate, your scope, and your billing methods, and many other points. Now, just having the arguments is not the whole story. The best way to prepare for a conversation on a disputed issue is to anticipate the rebuttal you're likely to get. And we have the rebuttals for you. I have started a talk show through RIA called Face the Advocate. Face the Advocate is where prominent industry stakeholders respond to these positions that RIA and the AGA has taken. And the first episode of this is my interview with Adrian Frank, who's Senior Executive Vice President of JSL. He's a very prominent member of the restoration ecosystem. We hear a lot of talk about JSL. There's a lot of companies who are very frustrated with them. And so that was a great place to start. And I discussed a number of RIA's positions with Adrian Frank. We've split up this episode into 3 parts. The first part is available right now, today. You can go on to the RIA website, you click on the advocacy tab there, you go down to member-only resources, and you can see a discussion that Adrian Frank and I had about whether or not a consultant should be producing the evidence of their qualifications, and what relevance do the qualifications of the consultant have in that process. The second and third parts of this episode with Adrian Frank are going to come out next Thursday, and then the Thursday after that. And trust me, we get down into some of the nitty-gritty issues here. Adrian and I, we rolled up our sleeves and we took a no-holds-barred, brass-tacks view. He was very candid with me. I spent a lot of hours with him discussing these issues before we started rolling any tape. And I think this is going to be something that's very valuable to everyone. And take a look at Face the Advocate. Here's a quick example of a question and an answer that he gave.
I'll roll this tape here. This is a teaser of one question here that will give folks an idea of what this content, excellent content, what it looks like here. So we'll roll now.
One of the positions that RIA is taking is that insurers and their consultants have no right to dictate the manner or scope of repairs. And as I understand it, your company is in the business of providing recommendations to the insurance company. And just so we're clear, while everybody's watching, you are not there to change the way that a contractor is going to perform the job against the contractor's will if the contractor believes in his or her professional judgment that it should be done a different way. Did I understand that right?
Right. And, as I kind of said before, right, if the contractor's going to do something in a way that is going to have significant increased cost, and, we've had a discussion and voiced that concern, we're going to sort of, be clear that there's going to be a cost discussion about that when the bill comes. But, we're it's not our job. We're not running the job. The contractor is going to be responsible. So there's definitely going to be discussion about that. But, at the end of the day, the restorer is responsible for their job, and they have to own that.
Excellent work there, Mr. Cross. We look forward to being able to get more feedback from our members. As Ed said there, we have on the members only page of the advocacy portion of the website, you go to member only AGA resources, and you will be able to access part one. We have, what are we calling this, Ed? Every Thursday we're dropping another piece here. What were you calling? You had a great title for that.
A third a Thursday.
A third a Thursday, a third on a Thursday. So 1/3 of this, roughly 52 minutes of content, 1/3 of it will be dropped every week for our members. I think our members will find this. I've listened to it, of course, and it's invaluable information. Excellent job there. Now, real quick, because we're about out of time, Face the Advocate is not just a TPC issue. We have a great ability to continue to roll Face the Advocate into our results from our scorecard from the TPAs. Is that, am I on the right track with that thought?
Absolutely. And for all of the different positions that RIA takes, we are going to be doing our best to engage the other restoration industry stakeholders in some serious discussions on that point, kind of carrying on with the success that you developed in your conversations with Mike Fulton. So this is going to be an ongoing talk show where restoration industry stakeholders respond to the positions taken by RIA on your behalf.
Excellent. Ed, thank you for all your work there. Katie, thank you for everything that is happening with the AGA and subcommittees. Lots of volunteers spending thousands of hours. Again, thank you to Restoration Affiliates and their generous investment. And Restoration Affiliates has been their member companies have been so generous with their time. True industry leaders. We appreciate their support. We continue to get investment, but as Katie said, we need your support. So please consider that investment of at least $100 per 1 million in revenue. That helps us advance your needs and your interests. Now, if you want to get the information that will help you transform your business, you need to be at the virtual conference October 6th and 7th. I mentioned that we would have a special offer for new members at the very end. So here's the offer, folks. If you join RIA, if you're not currently an RIA member, if you join RIA before the virtual conference, we will give you a pass to the virtual conference. And so that is more than makes it worth it for you to join RIA right now. That, and as Ed said, the resources that we have built for you, not only position papers and scorecards like we talked about today, but also the hours of video assets. We have no less than 4 briefings with Xactware CEO Mike Fulton, full of information as to how you can properly use that tool, how you can adjust pricing to reflect your local marketplace. We also will be having a forthcoming here, kind of a Q4 piece here, AGA Academy, where we will be equipping our members with a toolkit to help them use all of these various position papers. That will include videos, helpful checklists, and tools to implement these position papers, which we as an industry have to unify behind. So again, join RIA, get that virtual conference pass at no additional charge. We thank you for being here. We've done these briefings through a lot of different means in the past. We've had quite a number of industry briefings this year, with COVID and then the exactware issues. Welcome to anyone who is coming to us through Facebook. One thing we would ask you, anyone in our Facebook audience, if you're not currently liked and subscribed and following the Restoration Industry Association on Facebook, please like our page, and then you'll get notifications. Make sure that you've selected notifications there for RIA's page. And then we'd really appreciate it if you shared our page. Many of our listeners have a wide sphere of influence in the restoration industry. If you would be willing to share RIA's Facebook page, we would be so appreciative of that. I cannot see from my platform the Facebook page, and perhaps any questions folks may have. We'd be happy to stick around to answer a few questions if anyone in the Facebook audience has them. I think, Katie, were you able to see if there's any comments?
One comment from Watley, who just said he's interested in the TPC papers. He said, just as a hired gun himself, it's difficult to know where his responsibility begins and ends. So hopefully we'll clear up a lot of gray areas with these documents.
Watley, a hired gun. Thanks for joining us today, Watley.
And Kasani says, lack of documentation, the biggest issue we're hearing. We hear you, and AGA Academy is going to work very hard to educate restorers on best practices for documentation.
And third-party consultants need to document and provide substantiation and evidence and reasons for the deductions they put on restorers' invoices. It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Katie, I think one of the things that is really important on that comment that you have is that we really, and within AGA and RIA, we are advocating for a fair and level playing field, not a playing field where restorers have an unfair advantage. As restorers, we've got to make sure that we're above reproach, that we're doing our jobs according to the standards in the industry and the professional practices that we need to be following, especially adhering to the RIA Code of Ethics. So that piece is very important. This is not a license for any sort of disproportionate or unfair advantage for restorers in any way, shape, or form. We simply want a level and fair playing field.
There's never been a better time to be an RIA member. It's exciting to see this much progress.
Amen.
Tons of progress, so many engaged volunteers. We couldn't do without the engaged volunteers that we have. It's just a exciting time to be in the restoration industry, where we see a lot of good stuff happening right now. And thank you to the folks who are listening in today. You are part of the solution, so thank you for that. All right, well, with that, folks, we are going to wrap our RIA Industry Briefing. Thank you to our special guests today, Katie Smith and Ed Cross. Thank you both for all that you do. Also, a very special thanks to Shield Hub for presenting today's industry briefing. We appreciate your support. You should absolutely check out Shield Hub as a way to be able to be in compliance with background checks and not having that as a difficult, cumbersome process. So Shield Hub has found a way to make that easy for our members. Thank you, Shield Hub. Also, don't forget, RIA Virtual Conference coming up in less than 1 month. We look forward to seeing you there. Thanks, folks. And we are signing off.
So long.
Bye.
God bless.